Welcome to the MarketRent Weekly Brief, your go-to source for the latest insights and updates in the real estate market. Each week, we'll bring you the most important news and trends to help you stay informed and make smart decisions. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Welcome. Today, we're really focusing in on a critical question for anyone managing Section 8 properties. Are your rents, actually keeping pace with the market?
Exactly. It's something owners should actively manage, not just assume is okay.
Right. Because it's not just about compliance. It's about making sure you're capturing the revenue your property really deserves. Wading through HUD rules and market data, it can feel a bit much sometimes.
It definitely can. But our goal today is pretty straightforward. Give you some clear, actionable signs to look for, signs that might indicate you're leaving money on the table.
And we're drawing on analysis from, thousands of properties, plus the official HUD guidelines. So let's jump right in. What's the first big indicator?
Okay, indicator number one is seeing only the baseline OCAF, that's OCAF, increases applied consistently over time.
The OCAF. Explain that a bit.
Sure. OCAF stands for Operating Cost Adjustment Factor. It's designed to help rents keep up with increases in basic operating costs. Think utilities, insurance, taxes, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it helps cover rising expenses.
Precisely. But here's the crucial point. OCAF doesn't account for market rent growth. It's purely about operating costs.
I see. So if you're in an area where market rents are climbing, maybe quickly.
Exactly. If you've only been getting those OCAF adjustments year after year, especially in a neighborhood that's seeing growth, there's a very good chance your rents have fallen, maybe significantly, behind what the market would actually support.
That makes sense. You're covering costs, but not capturing the market value increase. So if you suspect that's happening, what's the step?
Well, this is where a comprehensive HUD rent analysis becomes really valuable. It can clearly show that gap between your current rents and the true market potential, giving you the solid data needed for an adjustment.
Okay, good to know. Let's move to the second indicator. This one involves fair market rents, or FMRs.
Right. HUD's FMRs. These are essentially the benchmarks HUD sets for the maximum rent allowed for Section 8 units in a specific geographic area.
So what's the warning sign here?
Here's a threshold we see often. If your actual contract rents are sitting at or even below 90% of the published FMR for your area and unit type, that's a strong flag.
90%. So a gap of 10% or more compared to that FMR ceiling.
Yes. Our analysis suggests that hitting that 90% mark or falling below it is a really strong indicator that your property is likely under-rented compared to its potential within the Section 8 framework.
And in some places, there's even more specific data available than the general FMRs there.
Absolutely. In many metropolitan areas, HUD publishes small area fair market rents, or SAFMRs. Think of these as much more localized, often down to the zip code level.
So even more granular.
Much more. They give you a far more accurate picture of the rent levels right in your property's immediate neighborhood, compared to the broader FMR, which might cover a whole county or metro area. Checking against the SAFMR can be very revealing.
Okay, so for you listening, the practical step is to actually look these numbers up. Where do you find them?
HUD makes this pretty accessible. They have an online FMR and SAFMR lookup tool. You just need your property's location.
So you can directly compare your current contract rents, unit by unit, against those HUD benchmarks.
Exactly. And again, if you see that discrepancy, especially if it's pushing past that 10% mark compared to the FMR or SAFMR, it strongly suggests you need a deeper review.
That's a concrete action item.
Okay,
let's shift gears slightly. Indicator number 3 relates to something that's gained importance recently, valuing non-shelter services.
Yes, this is quite significant. There was an update to the HUD Section 8 Renewal Policy Guidebook effective May 1st, 2023. It specifically addresses how to value non-shelter services you provide.
Non-shelter services. What falls under that umbrella? What kind of things are we talking about?
Good question. It covers a range of things beyond just the basic housing thing. Providing regular security services, offering reliable internet or broadband access, and HUD has specific guidelines on valuing that, by the way. Also, things like organized community activities, maybe transportation services like a resident shuttle, health and wellness programs offered on site, or even significant investments in energy efficiency that benefit tenants.
So things that genuinely add value to the residents' lives beyond the apartment itself.
Precisely. The absolute key here is that these services must be regularly and reliably available to the tenants. It can't be sporadic.
And the risk is if you offer these but don't account for them properly.
The risk is missing out on justifiable rent increases. If you're providing these valuable services, but they aren't documented and valued correctly within your rent comparability study, your RCS, then you're potentially leaving HUD-approved rent adjustments on the table.
That's important. Which brings us nicely to the RCS itself and who performs it. Indicator 4, relying on appraisers who aren't specialists in this area.
Yeah, this is critical. Conducting a proper HUD rent comparability study is a specialized skill. It's not just general real estate appraisal.
What makes it so specialized?
It requires a deep understanding not just of the local rental market, but specifically of HUD's rules laid out in the Section 8 Renewal Policy Guidebook, particularly Chapter 9. That chapter details exactly how these studies must be done for compliance.
So hiring a general appraiser, even a good one, might not be enough.
It often isn't. An appraiser who isn't deeply familiar with HUD Chapter 9 compliance might inadvertently overlook critical factors. They might not select the right comparables according to HUD's definitions or apply adjustments incorrectly.
And the result could be
An undervalued rent assessment. HUD has very specific, stringent guidelines on comparable selection, how adjustments for differences are made, and the level of documentation needed. A non-specialist might not know how to properly capture the value of specific amenities, those non-shelter services we just talked about, or recent capital improvements in a way that meets HUD requirements.
Okay, so specialized expertise really matters here. What's indicator number 5?
Indicator 5 is having an outdated rent comparability study that doesn't reflect what's actually happening in the neighborhood around your property.
Neighborhood dynamics. How much impact can that have?
A huge impact. Neighborhoods change, sometimes quite rapidly. If your last RCS was done, say, 3 or 4 years ago, and since then new developments have popped up nearby, your approved rents might be based on outdated market conditions.
What kinds of changes should owners be watching for? Can you give some examples?
Sure. Think about new shopping centers or nice restaurants opening up nearby, improvements in local school ratings, or maybe a new community college campus, better public transport links, new parks, trails, or recreation facilities, even a major company moving in or expanding nearby, bringing jobs. All these things can push market rents upwards in the surrounding area.
So the takeaway is to keep an eye on the neighborhood's evolution.
Absolutely. And to make sure your RCS is updated in a timely manner to reflect those changes so your rents stay aligned with the current market potential.
Right. Now, what about looking at what other similar properties are getting? That's indicator 6, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Pay attention to other comparable Section 8 properties right in your area. And by comparable, I mean similar unit sizes, similar amenities, similar overall condition.
Okay.
If you notice that several of them have recently achieved higher approved rents from HUD than your property has, well, that's a very strong signal.
A signal that you might be lagging behind.
It strongly suggests you might be. The likely reason is that those other owners have probably done a recent thorough rent comparability study and successfully justified higher rents based on current market conditions. If they can get it, it implies you might be able to as well.
It's like benchmarking against your direct peers.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, indicator number 7. This relates back to property improvement.
Yes, specifically newly added amenities or upgrades that weren't included in your current RCS.
So you've invested in the property, maybe renovated the community room or upgraded security.
Right. Those kinds of capital improvements obviously make the property more attractive and can definitely increase its market rent potential. But, and this is key, those improvements won't automatically boost your Section 8 contract rents.
Or not.
Because their value needs to be formally captured in an updated rent comparability study. Remember, the updated HUD guidebook emphasizes accurately valuing amenities and services.
So examples like maybe improved Wi-Fi infrastructure, better landscaping, new fitness equipment.
Exactly. Renovated common areas, enhanced security systems, upgraded internet, exterior improvements, any significant enhancement. If you've made investments like these since your last RCS, you need to get an updated study done to reflect the property's current, improved value, and potentially justify a rent increase.
These are all really clear indicators. To make this more concrete, maybe you could share an example of what happens when these signals are missed.
Yes, there's a good case study. We worked with a national nonprofit group. They owned a 75-unit Section 8 property for the elderly. located on the West Coast. And it was in a zip code that was experiencing really high growth, lots of new conventional multifamily development going up all around it.
So a hot market.
Definitely. But the owner had mostly just relied on those routine OCAF increases for years. They sort of assumed their rents were probably okay, somewhere near market.
And the reality.
Well, they finally commissioned a full RCS after years of just the OCAF bumps. They were frankly shocked. Their rents were found to be 31% below the actual market rates for comparable units.
31%. Wow.
Yeah. And also significantly below the applicable small area fair market rents for that specific zip code. The analysis identified potential for over $190,000 in additional rent per year.
That's a huge amount of missed income.
It is. And here's the real sting.
Yeah.
All the potential extra income from the previous years before they did the RCS, that was just gone. Lost revenue, completely unrecoverable.
Ouch. So the delay was incredibly costly.
Extremely costly. It's a powerful example of why waiting, especially in dynamic markets, can lead to significant permanent financial loss. A preliminary check much earlier could have flagged the issue.
And you mentioned this is also critical during due diligence.
Oh, absolutely. If you're acquiring a Section 8 property, doing this kind of rent assessment up front is crucial for accurate valuation. You need to know if you're buying untapped potential or a property already at its ceiling.
That makes total sense. So hearing all this, what's the main message for our listeners right now? What action should they take if some of these indicators sound familiar?
The good news is, if you recognize some of these signs for your own properties, you don't necessarily have to jump straight into commissioning a full, expensive rent comparability study tomorrow.
Okay, so what's a good first step?
A really effective starting point is to get a preliminary Section 8 rent assessment done. It's a less intensive way to get an initial estimate of where your property likely stands relative to the current market potential.
And that involves?
It typically requires just a few key data points: your current rent schedule, the property's zip code, and a basic rundown of the non-shelter services you consistently provide.
So relatively simple to gather.
Relatively simple. And the result gives you a much clearer picture. It helps you determine if moving forward with a full RCS, perhaps even a phased approach to manage costs, is likely to unlock substantial additional revenue. It helps you make an informed decision.
That sounds like a very practical, manageable way to start.
Yeah.
Really underscores that understanding your property's market position isn't just, ticking a box for HUD. It's fundamental asset management.
It absolutely is. It's about ensuring the long-term financial health and viability of the property.
Identifying these indicators we've discussed today, that's really the first step towards optimizing your revenue stream. So the final thought for you listening, if any of these signs resonated, if you think your property might fit one of these descriptions.
Don't wait like the case study example.
Exactly. Take that first step. Reach out, explore getting a preliminary rent assessment. It's the best way to uncover the potential that might just be waiting to be realized in your property.
That's it for this week's edition of the Market Rent Weekly Brief. To access more insights and resources, visit marketrent.us. Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Clarendon can help you achieve your real estate goals, please visit us online. We appreciate your trust in us as your go-to source for market intelligence. Our goal is to equip you with the critical insights and data necessary to make informed decisions. Until next time, stay informed and stay ahead.